As you are able, please stand with us for the reading of the land acknowledgement and then for the playing of the national anthem.
Sagas of the Credit First Nation.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to our public session of the Peel District School Board's regular meeting of the board, January 22nd, 2019. Working our way through the agenda, the next step is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'd like to withdraw my motion item 9.4, please. The matter has been resolved.
Absolutely. Thank you. So with the removal of 9.4 from the agenda, Trustee Green, will you move the agenda with this change? Sure. Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Crocker. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. There are no special presentations scheduled this evening. Item 2 is declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any to declare, trustees? Seeing none. Moving to section 3, which is minutes. The minutes. Section 3.1 is minutes of the Special Educational Advisory Committee meeting on December 18th, 2018. 3.2 is the minutes of the Instructional Programs Curriculum Committee on December 19th, 2018. 3.3 is the minutes of the regular meeting of the board on January the 8th, 2019. Trustee Benjamin, will you put them on the floor? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Marchant. Thank you. They are here for our receipt and approval. Are there any questions or comments regarding any of these 3 sets of minutes? Seeing none, all of those in favor? Carried. Are there any written questions from trustees? Seeing none. Moving to item 5. Are there any notices of motion or petitions from trustees? Seeing none. Item 6 is special section for receipt. 6.1 is a list of retirements. Are there any comments or questions regarding this list? Seeing none. Trustee Andrews, will you move this item, please? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Davies. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item 7 is delegations, and we have no requests to delegate the board. Moving straight through to item 9, new business. 9.1 are recommendations of the Special Education Advisory Committee from December 18th, 2018. There are no recommendations for the board. Trustee Marchant, will you move this, please? Thank you. Seconded by Vice Chair Lawton. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.2 are the recommendations of the Instructional Programs Curriculum Committee from December 19th, 2018. There are no recommendations for the board here. Trustee Kay McDonald, will you move these minutes, please? Thank you. And Trustee Sohi, will you second them? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.3 are the first quarterly financial reports as of November 30th, 2018. They are here for our receipt. Trustee DeCroop, will you put them on the floor, please? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee B. McDonald. Thank you. Controller Aladiche, could we ask you to give us a briefing on these reports, please?
You, Chair. So these are first quarter financial statements for the board. The results are compared to our original budget. And so since then, we've already done our revised budget. If you will notice on page 35 of your package, which is page 2 of the statements, are the benchmarks is where we would approximately see ourselves in terms of this quarter. And in terms of staffing, they're a little bit different than expenses, just depending on when our pay periods are. So if you look at the benchmarks and then compare them with our results, you will see that we're in good shape for where we are in this quarter. And so in all areas, we're within benchmark, so that's a good sign. When we do our next quarterly report, it will be against our revised budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? If I could just add something before Trustee Lawton speaks. Oh, I'm sorry. I know how to pull this up again. There you go.
Did you want to say something before me?
No, I'm happy to follow you.
Oh, look at that. That's the first man that said
I've been doing that for 8 years.
Okay. Can I ask a couple of questions about page 36 and page 37 and page 41 at the top? They're all about staff development, and staff development is way low as compared to the last 2 years, which is wonderful, if it's purposeful, or if it just happens to be the way it's working out. Could you give me an idea?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So staff development tends to be an area that fluctuates from year to year depending on when departments or areas determine to have their events. So in some years, departments may decide to have something early in the year and other times later. So that's an area that we typically don't see a very flat line throughout the year, and sometimes it will spike at different points of the year. So at this point, you know, if you look at page 36, for example, you will see that in 16-17, staff development was at 18%. Last year, it kind of spiked to 40, and then it's down. So it may well be as to when the timing of events. So that's not a line that we would necessarily typically see be exactly at 1/12 every month.
Thank you for that. And if I could ask another question. Memberships on page 46 at the top. There's a 545% difference, or 540% difference from the last 2 years budgeted.
Yes, through you, Chair. So that, I think, is a difference in practice. So this is in the HR area. So again, in terms of memberships or association dues, first of all, it depends sometimes when things are paid. And a lot of times those dues come at the beginning of a year. In terms of this particular department, I think it was determined that they were going to enroll more members of their management group into OASBA, which is the Ontario Association of that we attend, and to get information in terms of what's happening within education and the ministry. So sometimes departments only enroll a few members. I think in the past that's what's happened in HR, and this year they've determined that they wanted more members enrolled in that association. So in this particular instance, they've enrolled members than they originally anticipated, and also the timing of the payment would have been at the beginning of the year.
Thank you. I knew you would have answers. May I, page 50 at the top, and this maybe is for Controller Chung, replacement of Horizon booklet maker. Was that not a budget item?
Through you, Chair. Yes, that was approved in our budget, and yes.
Look at that. Something I remembered. And the page 52, transportation training. Bus safety training. Just who were we training?
So through you, Chair, we just completed our first year of ministry-funded training. We are going to complete the second phase of that, the other 50% the following summer. So that are those costs, but we fully expect to be reimbursed for that because that's fully funded by the ministry.
Okay, maybe next year we can train them to be on time. And I think that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. My question was a bit more general and had to do with when I looked at actuals to date, and then the balance we still had to spend for the balance of the year. In your opinion, Controller Latouche, are we okay moving forward with the balance we still have in all of those items for the balance of the year?
Through you, Chair. So certainly we use the benchmarks as an indicator. So at this point, based on the benchmarks and how everything's trending, I would say we don't anticipate any issues for the balance of the year.
Excellent. Thank you, Controller Latouche. Trustees, this item has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. It's carried. There are no reports for items 10 and 11. Moving on to item 12, reports from the Ontario Public School Boards Association. There are two OPSPA reports. 12.1 is dated January 7th, and 12.2 is from January 14th. Moved by Trustee Green and seconded by Trustee Andrews. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on these reports? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 13 is communications. For action or receipt, there are none. Moving on to item 14 is a response of administration to former questions. 14.1 is a response to Trustee K. McDonald's written questions at our January 8th board meeting. Trustee K. McDonald, will you put this report on the floor, please? Thank you. And Trustee Davies, will you second this, please? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments to the report? Thank you. Trustee McDonald, K. McDonald.
Thank you. Through your chair, I just wanted to thank Superintendent Harmon and Associate Director Wendy Dowling for this, and the information helps, and I will forward it on. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Trustees, a report is here for our receipt. All in favor? Carried. Are there any reports from trustee representatives on councils or associations? Thank you, Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to let the board know that tomorrow, OPSPA is having its executive meeting, and I'm just putting it out there that if there's anything that is critically important from our board that you think I need to bring forward to the executive table for tomorrow, if you could send me an email sometime between now and tomorrow morning, I'd appreciate that, so that we can have that full open discussion. I know our student trustee today asked a question in terms of tuition and stuff like that, so I made a note of that, and We'll also discuss that at that executive table tomorrow. And hopefully, if there is any direction that Oxford will be taking in that, I will bring that back to our board. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions? Yes, we will just move on. Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from board members? I'll start at this end. We'll make our way across here. I will start with our student trustees. Trustee Chongkrian. Whoops, excuse me. Sorry, Trustee Chongkrian. Trustee Marchant, do you have a question?
When you get around to me.
Okay.
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, so we are Trustee Chongkrian. Do you have a question or comment? If you do, just activate. Not activate. Yes, there you are. Okay, you're on.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to make a personal comment regarding my own administration over at Harold and Brathwaite Secondary School. I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with our principal, Mr. Gregory Byrne, for the past 5 months to address students' concerns. Mr. Byrne has always made it his mission to welcome any new ideas of mine with open doors and has made my transition as student trustee into a tremendously supportive one. Mr. Byrne, your efforts are truly commendable, and I thank you for always being the principal that the students at HB look up to, continuing to inspire success, confidence, and hope in each student. Thank you.
Thank you. To our communication staff on this system, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing. Is there a way you could increase the volume for us across the whole room? That would be helpful if you could. Okay, Trustee Oris Nadenova. Trustee Crocker. Okay, I just activating. It's not populating here. Are you hitting the right side of the base speaker? There you are. Thank you. Go ahead.
So after that bright note, Chair, I'm going to be a bit of a downer, I'm afraid, with your indulgence. I don't have to go to work most mornings, but I do on Monday, and as we all know, it was a cold morning. And I'm sure, like most of the rest of us, I got up a little bit earlier, and I set my alarm clock a little earlier, I was out to my vehicle a little earlier, I left myself lots of time, turned out not to be necessary, because a lot of people didn't go to work on Monday. I guess they were working from home, or I don't know whether that was everybody's experience, but I found the roads to be pretty clear of traffic, even at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the region had done their job in clearing the ice and snow in most places. It was a cold morning, admittedly. I got to my place of work and everybody was there on time. I had reason to, as I do every Monday morning, to go to a business at 10 o'clock where I expect the person to be there. He was there. Everything worked as it should. The parking lot was plowed, the sidewalk was plowed and sanded, salted. Everything was good. And this was my impression around the region. So I was a little bit surprised to get an email from a principal saying this. You can't see the image, but there was an image which showed what she called the inexcusable number of bus delays they'd had this morning. And she went on to say, our halls are empty. However, the number of notifications are not my biggest concern, despite the fact that we are in the final evaluation period, and it seems that half my students aren't here. My concern is the health and safety of the students being impacted by these delays. She asked us to look at 7 different entries and says the late notifications are coming in 15-minute increments, and they are coming in after the pickup times for the routes they have passed. I will tell the board that this isn't just any high school. It's West Credit Secondary. These are vocational students, and I don't want to profile them in general, but I think we'll all agree that they're not any less prone to feeling the effects of a cold morning, and nor are they less prone to feeling the effects of stress than other students. The principal goes on to say, this poor system of notification means that my students are standing outside for 30 to 60 minutes on a day when wind chills are close to minus 30. These are days when it is so cold that outdoor recess is canceled for elementary students. As we all know, it was PD day anyway in the elementary panel. And of course, to me, that means that the buses should have had quite a bit more flexibility on Monday morning than they would on other days. Didn't work out that way for West Credit. And yet, she says, we are allowing students to stand in the cold and wait for buses. In fact, we have just had a call from a parent whose child's pickup time is 7:01, and at 8:17, an hour and a quarter later plus, the bus still hasn't arrived, even though the notification says the bus will be an hour later. Can someone please speak to the bus companies and ask them to post notifications of 60 minutes initially and in advance when they have routes when drivers call in sick? Now, other than the chart posted, I guess, by Stopper, that's the end of her communication. I will add that this did go to Roy at Stopper, and it went to Controller Chung, and they responded immediately and appropriately, and I thank them for that. Perhaps, Thomas, you'll pass that on to Roy. The fact remains that we have late buses consistently all year. It's worse on cold days, but we all know about cold days. It's Canadian winter, and yeah, that's when our battery might be dead. But for all these buses affecting half the kids in the school, to have had battery problems or starting problems is just beyond belief. And frankly, Chair, something has to be done. We have to get behind this and do something about ongoing transportation problems, which are only going to get worse this winter with the colder weather, and for which I don't see an immediate solution. So thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Trustee Crocker. We can hear and feel the frustration and also the frustration for those families. Controller Chung, would you like to respond, or yes, would you like to respond?
So through you, Chair, particularly the West Credit, and I've communicated this with Trustee Crocker, the small buses or special education buses that service that school, we did experience a number of mechanical problems due to cold weather on Monday. I agree, that's not acceptable. We have spoken to the bus company, and I believe it's corrected as of today. But the other issue with some of our newer small buses, especially special education buses, is that a number of the interlock sensors for the emergency exits, because of the cold weather, were not functioning. And when they don't function, the bus actually cannot be driven. So the bus companies have fixed this. It's particularly on the newer small buses. And I agree with you. We do have a very stringent cold weather check in place. It was actually done on the weekend. What we normally do is we'll go to schools with parked buses. They start the buses, make sure they're in operational condition for Monday. They did do that. I think what happened was some of these buses, particularly for West Credit, started running and broke down. So inexcusable, but we have been working on it, and I believe it's fixed as of today.
Well, if I may be allowed to follow up, Chair, and through you.
Yes.
What a horror show it would have been then had this not been an elementary PD day. And frankly, Controller Chung, I appreciate your answer, but I think the rest of us were thinking about, starting our vehicles a little earlier on the morning. Do we need to run the block heater? All those kinds of things that are just all part of a Canadian winter. And further to that, none of that addresses the communication piece, where if we know the buses are going to be late, why aren't the families being told appropriately? We're very, very fortunate that, as far as I know, there wasn't a serious medical issue arising from this. So far, we've just been lucky. And thank you once again, Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you for bringing this forward, Trustee Crocker. I think you speak for all of us with respect to our frustration around this, and every time we talk about this, we say, we have to stop this. This has to stop. We can't keep doing this. Our children are cold. Their parents are cold. Our grandparents are cold. And then we talk about it again. I think this requires a whole new level of problem solving. I'm hoping, Controller Chung, that you could take this back and come back with some assurances around not just that we're going to fine The bus company, more money, that doesn't seem to work, obviously, around improving the service. And so I really empathize with all of the families, as we've heard from Trustee Crocker. We need your help in helping to stop this, to provide a better service, not just in this horrifically cold weather, but in every kind of weather. So we're asking you to take this back, Controller Chung, and in particular, because Trustee Crocker has raised the question, could you please connect with him around what the solutions will be for his families, but then expand that to the rest of us around what the solutions will be for the rest of our families. Would that be all right, sir? Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Benjamin, question or comment? Yes, thank you.
I would like to share some information which I think is useful. I'm a member of the Moulton Black Development Association, which is one of the community organizations in my ward. And at the last meeting, there was a presentation made by the UAC, which is the United Achievers Community Services. And this was about a youth entrepreneurship mentoring program, which is entitled Black Leaders of Tomorrow. And I'm just giving a brief information about what it means. This is a mentorship program for youth who are entrepreneurs or aspire to own their own business. And through this initiative, they want to provide opportunity for youth who identify as Black to gain valuable knowledge and skills to run a business successfully, as well as develop a positive attitude about their cultural identity. And there's a lot of information in this flyer which I have. So they have mentors who would be experienced business owners or managers from the Black community, and the mentees would be those who identify as Black youth from 16 to 24 years. So here's an opportunity for our high school students, and the requirements are commitment of for 1 year attendance at meetings and to meet with the mentor 6 hours a month and develop their own business plans. So I'm going to pass this over to our director because I think this ties in well with our We Rise initiative. And if you, post it on the website, I think all schools can take advantage of this and encourage our youth to make use of this great opportunity that is there. So thank you, Chair. That's all I have to share.
Excellent, thank you. Which for the rest of us means if we have children, students in our areas who could take advantage of that program, we ought to be referring them for access. Thank you. Trustee Kay McDonald? Yes.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I too have two busing questions for Controller Chung. So at our Brampton, and you were there at the Brampton School Traffic Safety Council meeting, and we were talking about the fines that the bus companies receive. And I was told that some companies up to $60,000 upwards. But in the discussion at the meeting, it was drawn to my attention that it's, when they have like a $40 million budget, it's less than 1% really of their cost is goes to the fine. So do you find that the fines, even though we're now collecting them, which before we weren't, but do you find that the fines are high enough and a sufficient deterrent for these companies?
Chair, we've been fining approximately $50,000 to $60,000 monthly since September. It has tapered down a little bit in the last month, but I think the most significant fine we can give to a bus company, and we have done this on many routes, is to actually remove the route, and I believe I brought that up in past committee meetings, where if we remove an actual route over the span of a contract, that can cost a bus company up to $350,000 for the term of the contract. So, and we have done that, if you recall, to a number of times, to particularly First Student at Brampton and on a number of routes.
Okay, thank you. And now, with regards to bus driver safety, and again, I called you immediately when I saw that incident, because to my shock, not Monday gone, so the Monday before, I witnessed a small bus actually running the signals, the flashing signals of a school bus, because there was a stop. There were about 30 kids that were getting on. I had my dash cam on, but I unfortunately couldn't operate it properly. It was pretty new because my son just got his license, so up went the dash cam. And I didn't, unfortunately, it had not been saved, because I had to press something to save that image of it. But what is done with driver safety? Because I think it's horrendous that a bus has broken the flashing signs.
Oh, so through you, Chair, this, as discussed, this is a serious event, and it's unfortunate we don't have the video or the bus number or a license plate. As I said, if we get that information, we'd act on that immediately. The training I was talking about was actually school-based training. There's the company that is involved is called Intertrain. It's a ministry-mandated training company, and it's for actually training the actual students in regards to bus safety. So we've completed 50% of that this past summer, and we'll be doing 50% this summer, where the outside training will come to each school, work with the principal, and teach safe bus safety at each school.
Okay, thank you. And also, just a comment too with regards to a bus being late at Churchville, because just to let you know that at Churchville, a parent was complaining that they have a bus that is up to about an hour late, and this wasn't in the cold weather. So we're still having, I guess, little pockets of late buses.
As always, I'll be glad to connect with you. If you can give me the information, I'll be glad to look at it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Trustee Andrews. Trustee Davis. There we are. Thank you.
I just wanted to let you know that the bus issues are also taking up time of Stan and myself, because we have to go back and forth. I just to let you know it's not just incident in those areas, and maybe if Ms. McDonald had the not the bus number, but where she was and what time it was, what day it was, we might be able to find the bus without lights, which is a safety concern for everyone. Thanks.
I think it's an interesting challenge for many of us who share schools, because multiple trustees would get the same message about the same concern. I'm going to try something for trustees for the second half of our question and answer, or questions or comments. Can we speak a little closer to the microphone? So we'll do our part and help communications around whether the sound issue is just related to them, or it's that we're too far away. So we'll ask everybody, starting with Vice Chair Lawton, to move a little closer if you have comment or question. And you do not, of course. Of course, yes. So we'll go to this side of the table, please. Trustee DeCrube, question or comment? No. And Trustee Marchant. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I had the pleasure last night of going to the Parent Involvement Committee, and I'd like to bring a couple of things forward from that. One, first and foremost, I challenge all the trustees here to reach out to their parents and representatives from their areas to connect with the Parent Involvement Committee. Many of them have been on there serving for quite some time, and several of them were somewhat dismayed. They didn't know who their trustees were and hadn't heard from them. So a challenge to all my fellow trustees to reach out to the members on there and just introduce yourself. And two, they will be sending a correspondence around their annual conference for March 30th soon. So I presume that will include a invitation to the trustees as well. So that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Trustee B. McDonald? No, thank you. Trustee Sohi? No. Trustee Green? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question, and it just came back to my thought. I'm hoping that maybe someone can answer this for me. If and when a parent requests that their child do not go outside, because I know that we take direction, and it's on our board website, in terms of the health and safety of kids going outside for play during inclement weather. But if a parent requests that their child stay indoor, can the principal say no, that the child still has to go outside? or do we honor that request from the parent? Keep the child in.
So I'd ask through the director, do you have someone who would answer that? Well, yes, Associate Director Dowling? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Cameron. I will always give a response with the understanding that there's context. Certainly, overall, we believe that if our students come to school, that we would expect that they would come to school with the ability to be able to learn indoors as well as through the social play that unfolds outdoors as well. We take significant guidance and precautions when the weather is what it has been this week. We limit the amount of time where students would be outside, or we curb and do not go outside as well. If a parent sent a note in identifying that they would like their child to be kept in, what we would hope is that there would be a conversation with the administration and the parent to understand the reasoning behind that. And often in that conversation, we are able to better learn why that request is being made, and I would say in most cases it is honored. Because sometimes there could be a health issue where the child is recovering from maybe not being well, and the parent is seeking just the opportunity for a little bit more recovery time indoors, and our administration usually comply with that. So I realize that my response is lengthy because it's not a definitive yes, no. The grounding and the principle is if students are outside and the supervision is there, that as long as a student is dressed, that we would be encouraging that they would be outside. But there are lots of times every day in schools where a student would remain indoors, and we would hope that the administration and the teachers are understanding why that's necessary for that child.
Okay. Thank you, Associate Director Downing. It's just the fact that I did get a call from parents, and I referred the parents to the school website and actually talked to the parents around that we take direction from the Peel Health Department. However, while we were sitting in camera, the parent texted me and wanted me to ask a question. I almost forgot, so I asked, so I'll take that back. So thank you for that. And the final thing, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to basically, I'm going to pay my dollar to go towards the Learning Foundation to speak about Jean Augustine. This morning, I was able to attend an innovation program that they have taking place in partnership with the City of Brampton, where the students, Bramptoner, have a vision for 2024. And here at Jean Augustine, the student had to develop plans in terms of what they would like to see for this vision for 2024 in the City of Brampton. And I was amazed. I attended and this was grade 9 student. I was blown away by the presentation and the creativity of these students and the presentation talking about the future of the City of Brampton. You know, I was since last year I've been contemplating myself in doing some development in terms of affordable housing for especially for battered women. And a young man this morning gave me an idea, and he said he researched this and he got this from Germany, and he's also got it from China, where they talk about the pod unit. And he said to me, Mr. Green, I'll even design it for you. So, you know, I just to say that as a trustee for that school and, you know, Superintendent Solomon, I think we should, and all the trustees that share that school with me, we should be proud. And I was really inspired by the work that is taking place in that school overall. So I want to congratulate the principal, the staff, and everyone at that school for their innovative ideas and the number of partnership that they got going on in that school. So kudos to those schools, the work being done.
Thank you. Thank you to all the trustees for your comments and questions. Item 17 on the agenda is public question period. Are there any questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you. Item 18 is further business. If there is any, now's the time to raise it. No further business from, yes? Sorry? Right. Vice Chair Lawton, this is from her. I didn't think of it, but if you spoke about a school, you owe $1. I'll leave that for you to honestly cough that up, and we will donate it collectively. Thank you. Before we get to item 19, we'd just like to ask if we have students in education programs who are here. You could put your hand up? Awesome. Well, welcome to all of you. Welcome to everyone. And if you would like to talk to the vice chair, the chair, and the director after this meeting, we'd be happy to give you a few minutes. So maybe it's something you could add to your report about what the wisdom that came out of the two people on either side of me tonight. Thank you.
It'll be short.
Item 19 is the adoption of the in-committee reports. Trustee Sohi, will you put them on the floor, please? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Benjamin. Thank you. All in favor? Awesome, everyone. Carried. And item 20 is adjournment. Moved by Trustee B. McDonald to adjourn. Seconded by Trustee DeCroop. All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Stay warm and safe.